Hey everyone, Gabe here. I just wanted to give you a quick disclaimer before this episode. We had some guests on. We had Justin and Ian from Crit Academy joining us today, and there were some technical difficulties that caused some issues in the audio that I didn't realize until after we had already finished the recording. So as a result, some of the audio, particularly Ian's track, has some weird audio glitches. I did my best to clean them up in editing. But if his track ever sounds a little weird, or if it ever sounds like he's missing for part of the conversation, it's not that he wasn't taking part of the conversation. It's because I had to edit the most out of his track. So apologies to Ian. I did my best. Apologies to our listeners, everybody. Sorry that the sound quality isn't quite up to our usual standards, but I still think this was a great episode. I think there's a lot of great stuff in there. It was so much fun having the two of them on. So anyway, on with the episode and enjoy. Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we have two very special guests with us today, Justin and Ian from Crit Academy. Woo! Woo!
Oh, yeah!
You can say hello if you would like to.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no problem. Great to have you guys. It's been a while. We didn't really have any guests for a long time. And so, seemed like it was about time.
Well, we're honored.
Cool. So, of course, we mention you guys a lot on the show, but do you want to tell our listeners about yourselves?
Sure. We run the Dungeons & Dragons discussion podcast, Crit Academy, YouTube channel, TikTok. We're everywhere because, apparently that's the thing. We bring interesting discussions for D&D related content, whether we're covering a new book, third-party content, or some stuff that we've developed ourselves. On top of that, we then have our Unearthed Tips and Tricks, where we bring in new and reusable material for both players and DMs. That takes on the form of monsters, encounters, DM tips, player tips, magic. We do it all. We do it every single week at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can join us live. It's a lot of fun, and we are big on content creation. So,
hey, you guys are a fantastic podcast. I don't know where we would be without you guys. We met you pretty early on after we started, so you've been a big help in helping us grow, and we've been guests on your show a few times, and great stuff all around. Yeah. So everybody go check out Crit Academy.
Yeah, do it now.
Yes. How you guys been? How's everybody been doing? Anything exciting going on lately?
We keep ourselves very, very busy. In fact, before I came into this discussion, my wife and I spent well over an hour going through our upcoming Kickstarter, Capes and Crooks. Anybody that knows my show, and most nerds in general, are huge fans of comic books and everything. I absolutely love the 5e rule set, so it was only inevitable that I would create my own superhero RPG based on the 5e rule set. We're getting ready. We're getting to the final layout of most of the layout's done. We're just making some corrections of our memorable monsters, which was our last year's Kickstarter. So we're hopefully getting that out to at least the PDF out to our current backers, and hopefully in the next in the next month or so, we'll be launching our Capes and Crooks Kickstarter. We've been playtesting it online and doing the whole superhero shtick, and it's been a lot of fun. Awesome. So if that's something you are interested in, please consider checking us out. You can head over to critacademy.com/capes and crooks, watch our playtest, and kind of see how we've managed to take what we like about 5th edition and enhance it to bring it to a level of superheroes. So yeah, that's cool. It keeps me busy.
Awesome. Yeah. You are nothing if not busy. Like you're always coming out with new stuff and always promoting your show and everything, and that's really cool. You're definitely a role model for an upcoming podcast.
I think I'm gonna cry. It's good busy though. I want to make sure that's clear. I love what I do. I love writing for D&D. I love all that stuff. So while I say it's work, it's a fun kind of work, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Still playing that new Monster Hunter game. I've been hooked on that. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, anytime I get into Monster Hunter, I'm always trying to think of ways to bring Monster Hunter type stuff into D&D. Like I think way back when we did the actual play, like I think I was really into Monster Hunter at the time, so I'm like,
yeah.
I wanted my character to be kind of a like Monster Hunter. Although there is a Monster Hunter or like a Beast Hunter Ranger subclass or something that just didn't, I don't know, it didn't excite me, so I ended up doing my own like multi-class combination or something, but I don't know, it worked out fine. But yeah, no, I've just been playing that all weekend again. It's so much fun.
So yeah, at the moment I've just taken the last week off of work. I had some vacation and it refreshes in like a month, so I figured might as well. And haven't really gotten quite everything that I wanted to get done, but it's been nice to relax and watch movies and 3D print stuff and play video games and so on.
That certainly does sound awesome.
Yeah. I was saying before we started recording that I actually damaged part of my 3D printing setup because I was trying to print something that was too big.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I regret nothing, but it is going to be it's going to be a little while before I can actually print anything again. So
yeah, your printer took some damage from the Tarrasque.
It did.
And ironically, that's what makes the Tarrasque so dangerous. Not that it doesn't have a ranged attack, but that it destroys everything between you and it.
That's true. It's not about fighting me. It's about the Tarrasque fighting the environment.
Everything else.
Yes. So Ian, how you doing? How have you been, and what you got going on?
I've been keeping busy, and don't really have much going on in particular, really. And always keeping busy with Academy stuff, of course. So
Sure.
It's funny.
All right. You guys want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Let's do it.
Okay. I guess I'll make this an easy one. You guys are in a tavern, and somebody hands you a map. Somebody make a intelligence check to decipher what the map is to. Someone who's got a D20 on hand.
I got a 15.
I got a nat 20. Hoorah!
Okay. So everybody else...
Follow me.
Everybody else is really confused looking at this map, scratching their heads. They just can't figure it out. But then Justin stands up, flips it around, points at the map, and you realize that this is a map to the Dragon's Hoard.
Oh, it was upside down.
Yes. You were looking at the back of the map.
Yeah.
All right. So today's Dragon's Hoard was actually brought in by Justin. So Justin, if you would like to tell us about this item.
I would love to, Gabe. Thank you. So the item we have is called the Corrupted Heavy Crossbow of Triumph. Now, the reason I brought this, we have previously covered this on our website or on our show. I really like this because we are just finishing up our own magic item generator. Totally inspired by Diablo and Path of Exile and all those things where loot just drops everywhere, right? I wanted to introduce this. This weapon is a heavy crossbow. It's very rare and does require attunement. When you hit with an attack using this magic weapon, the target takes an extra 1d6 necrotic damage. In addition, while you wield this weapon, you have resistance to radiant damage. The bow is coated in an aura of black mist. Flames within 10 feet flicker and dim to half their range. When you kill a creature with this weapon, a rush of triumphant glory imbues you with eagerness for the next fight. Whenever you make an attack roll or saving throw for the next minute, you can roll a d6 and add that number rolled to your attack roll or saving throw. This feature cannot be used again until you finish a short or long rest. That is the Corrupted Heavy Crossbow of Triumph.
There you go.
Totally randomly generated.
That's really cool. I love that you guys are making that magic item generator. Like it's such a great concept whenever you just really need something cool to give to your players.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's actually a sample on our website in our free loot section where I basically tested out the concept and it got a lot of response. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I basically use the affix prefix system that you see in those action RPGs where that determines an affix or a prefix determines a particular effect. And then you just combine it with an item rolled and you get some weird stuff like this. What do you guys think about this item?
Yeah, Jeff, what do you think?
It's like, what is this triumphant glory I keep hearing about?
Just an eagerness for the battle.
Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I like all the different effects on it. It's really neat.
I really like how it not only deals necrotic damage, but also makes you resistant to radiant damage.
Yeah.
That's a neat feature that makes a lot of sense. If you're using a flaming sword, it would make sense for you to take less damage from cold damage, for example.
Yeah, I like that. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting to see a magical heavy crossbow. I feel like crossbows don't get used as much as the more common, longbows or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I feel like
cool to
range
see.
items in general don't get used. Like, just how many magical bows in the
One.
DMG?
I think there's one
Yeah.
magical bow in the
Pretty
DMG, a bow of oath or whatever, oath bow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really a fun one because I like that it ended up rolling with like the black mist causes things to flicker out when you're just in the vicinity, and that just screams corrupted, and like that's weird. That happens every time I walk into a room.
Yeah.
Things just go out.
Yeah. I feel like that could be that could be used pretty in cool ways. I think like if you're in a group with like a rogue or something like that. So like you could be in the middle of the battle like dimming all the lights, whereas while the rogue or whatever is like hiding in the shadows in the corners because you've basically given him more shadows to work with.
That is very clever, and I did not think about that when I wrote that. That is awesome. Because even if the rogue had it, they can create their own like dim light areas for the take the hide, right? Because I think you need like dim light or cover or something to actually hide, right?
Yep.
I think so. Yeah.
So I hadn't even thought of that. That is awesome. So thank you for that.
Yeah. But I think this is a really cool item, and it's really cool that. So I guess let me ask, how much was randomly generated, and then how much did you have to zhuzh it up a little bit?
That's all randomly generated. So each
even like the description at the bottom.
Yep, all that's part of it.
Okay.
So
awesome.
I basically had in the template or the tables, it basically walks you through roll on this table and it gives you this first affix. Roll on this table, it gives you an item. And you can roll on those as many times as you want, and then there's little point modifiers that help scale it to be the right power. So like
that's really cool.
The bow is coated in an aura of black mist, has a rarity power of common, which is a 0 point. So it doesn't actually increase it. Most of the rarity comes from the huge buff you get from being able to add a d6 to your saving throws and attack rolls. And then of course I think that is rare, and then combining it with the first one that does the extra damage puts it up to the very rare category. So you could choose to roll a really complex item 10 times on the common list and get a whole bunch of like flavor abilities like the aura mist if you want to introduce a lot of different magic items that have these little minute effects but overall aren't going to imbalance your game. Or you can go, I'm going to shoot for a really really randomized item and I'm going to roll on these tables randomly, and then you get something like this. So a lot of thought went into it. I had to change it like 10 times, but I finally settled on something I was happy. I just got it back from the editor, so I'll be doing the layout for this big 40-page document. So
awesome. Well, good job.
Thank you.
Did you guys have anything else about this, or do you want to move on?
I just want to say I love the idea of carrying around a black crossbow that has mist dripping from it. That just...
Yeah.
Like, that screams intimidation.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
want to meet my friend Bianca?
All right. I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Horde then. Thank you very much, Justin, for bringing that in. So once again, that was the Corrupted Heavy Crossbow of Triumph. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or questions for us to discuss, or stories for the Funeral Pyre or Retirement Village or whatever else we're doing with our final segment, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
All right. Well, before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today. Ooh. And it's especially special because we have the creator of this great supplement that we're giving away. We are giving away actually 3 supplements, the Warmind, Skybreaker, and Werecat, courtesy of Crit Academy.
What a coincidence!
Right?
Yep.
Can I say something?
Absolutely. Go for it.
You guys are in luck because actually we recently compiled 6 of our content and I've been sending that out to the players. So not only do you get the Warmind, the Skybreaker, and what was the other one? I forgot already.
The Werecat.
The Werecat. And now you also get the Blade Dancer, the Circle of the River Druid, and the School of Binding Wizard. And I just been sending that to him,
goodness.
so you're going to have to start calling it the Crit 6 instead of the Crit 3.
Oh, boy. Well, listeners, you still have to write in with Crit 3.
Yeah, just make it easier on the
So, yeah.
on the email.
But
Yeah, so yeah, tons of awesome stuff that Justin is setting up for us to give away. So
Well,
big,
damn.
huge thank you to them.
Yep.
So Jeff, who is the winner of these, I guess, six character options today?
Today's winner is the DM's Council.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, DM's Council. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. Be sure to let us know if a few days go by and you haven't gotten it. And of course, please leave reviews for Crit Academy.
Please do
The more
that.
reviews they get, yes, please. The more reviews they get, the more attention they get. Also, the more they know to work on in the future. So,
It's
Okay.
true.
as a content creator, I cannot overstate enough how important a review is, because I'm going to keep putting out the same content until somebody says, that's not right.
Sure.
So, which luckily I don't get too many of those, but I do fix the ones that people spot. So,
Right.
there you go.
Yeah, no, it's important. Not just for like algorithms and stuff, but for actually like improving
right.
content.
Yes. So a big, huge thank you to Justin. Thank you so much for you're the one who always is coming to me and saying, hey, do you want to give away this free stuff to your listeners? And that's so cool. I really appreciate it.
You know what? You're welcome. I'm happy to. I remember when I first started asking and trying to reach out, so I know that it's a nice nice reward and prize for listeners. So I'm happy to help in any way I can. So
All right. Well, congratulations, DM Council. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like the DM's Council and they wanted to win a free copy of these awesome supplements, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Crit 3 in the subject line.
There you go. And next up, I want to tell everybody to go check out our Patreon. Patreon's an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. If you head to patreon.com/interpartyconflict, we've got various rewards. We've got outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I've written. We've got a monthly bonus podcast. We've got a monthly Roll20 game as well. We've got lots and lots of stuff on there. So check that out. If you've got a few extra bucks and you want to send it our way, you can get some cool stuff in return and help out the podcast at the same time.
I can confirm, as a patron for years, it's all worth it.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
I think you're one of the few, some of the stuff that we put up, you're like the only person that actually at least gets back to me about it. I don't know how many people are actually listening to me ramble on,
Yeah.
but
I feel that way on our Patreon too. I feel like I don't get a lot of interaction. I was like, does anybody actually care about this stuff, or am I wasting my time?
sure. I mean, at the end of the day, most of the stuff that we do, I'm doing because I want to do it.
Right.
But
I agree.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people who donate to Patreon and stuff like that, not just to us, but just in general, they're just there to support, not necessarily to get the bonus content.
Right.
but
I agree.
It's just it's a nice thing to have, I think.
We don't want
have,
you to
like, bonus
stop.
content.
Sure. All right. And then, of course, be sure to check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Justin or Ian, why don't you guys tell us some more about Crit Academy and any other projects you're working on that people can find and check out of yours?
Ian, do you want to take that?
In a nutshell, we cover a specific topic every other week. Then we break it down into our Unearth Tips and Tricks, where we give player tips, DM tips, homebrew creatures, and magic items. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always have so much content for everybody. And you guys do so many giveaways. We do one giveaway a week. You guys do 3.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot to finagle. Like, I'll be honest, my wife helps a lot. So thank you, sweetheart.
Sure.
Yeah, make sure you check out everyone. There's a lot of people that have we've built a little community of content creators, and everyone has something else to offer. Like I said, I think it's a great way for us to grow our community as a whole and get to know each other and really just talk nerdy to each other. Like, that's what it's
Pretty
all
much,
about. So check them out.
Yeah. So there's Crit Academy. There's also D&D Character Lab. There is Brute Force and Ignorance and The Kind GM. And those are just the podcasts. There's also content creators. We got, Loresmith and
Jeff Stevens does really great work.
Jeff Stevens. Yeah, lots of great stuff on Crit Academy's website. They've got information about all the different content you can get through there.
Head on over there. Lots of free loot. We have a lot of free loot you can just go pick up.
Yeah.
Do it now.
People love free stuff. So it's all good.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. As a person, I can verify. Yes, people do enjoy free stuff.
That's funny.
All right, you guys want to go ahead and jump into some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, our first question comes from Justin on Facebook, and they ask, how would you go about creating a subclass?
Carefully.
Yeah, I wonder who that Justin guy is.
Yeah, some weirdo.
Yeah, there's a lot of those out there. You want to hang out.
Yeah.
Be careful.
So yeah, Justin, you've created many subclasses. You know, we're giving away. I guess not all of them are subclasses, but we're giving away because the Werecat's a race, correct?
It's my first one actually.
Okay, cool. But then there's 5 in that bundle. You've also created some others and such. Yep. So, so like, what is? How do you start when you're going to make a subclass? What's like the starting point?
So this process is probably going to be different for everyone. But one thing it starts with is an idea. What is it I want that doesn't already exist? And I'm not talking about something that can just be reflavored, but you want something to have a mechanical advantage or some sort of different mechanics. Because if there's one thing I've gotten a lot out of, it's reflavoring. Our episodes on 50 Shades of Rage is a really great example of how many different ways a barbarian can have rage. But when you're looking for something that is mechanically different, you need to start with a concept and make sure it isn't already in existence, right? It isn't, especially among the official content, because there's a lot of content creators out of there. So I'm sure you can find some variant that's already been created by somebody. So I would recommend starting with a theme.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the first things. Then once I decide on what the theme is, I pick the appropriate class to fit that theme. And that's when the real work starts, because it requires a lot of research. Because Wizards of the Coast, and by extension some of the bigger third-party companies like Cobalt Press, there is a method to the development madness. And there is a consistency that jumps between them that isn't as obvious if you're not actively looking for it. Whether it means that for a fighter, the 7th ability is usually a utility, for example. If you just give it all power attack strike abilities, you're going to quickly find yourself with a character A that's imbalanced, and B that nobody's going to want to use because you didn't consider all 3 pillars of the game when designing it. So those are some of the starting steps that I take. If I'm going to build a sorcerer, for instance, I'll lay out all the sorcerer abilities across all official published content and try to categorize everything. So, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So listeners, what we've done is we've each made a subclass that we're going to talk about today. And I've never made a subclass before. So like this was an interesting experiment for me. And I watched a couple of YouTube videos, one of which was from, it is Jeremy Crawford actually is being interviewed about creating subclasses, and yeah, they actually say like, don't even worry about the balance until you've got a theme that makes sense, that serves a purpose in the world, and then you've got abilities that are going to be useful to the players, not just damage,
right,
or whatever. Then you worry about the balance once you've gotten those ones.
That's a really good point, because imbalance doesn't just come from overpowered damage powers, right? So you can come up with a concept, I want this power to do this, and then worry about how much damage or how it's going to do it later, to ensure that it falls within the right line. Getting it all on paper is a really good starting point. So,
yeah. So Ian or Jeff, did either of you guys want to have anything? Did you have anything you wanted to talk about before we get into our subclasses? Because I figured once we talk about our subclasses, we could talk about how we got to how we came up with it, and then what the process was for making it. Did either of you have anything you wanted to say before then?
Not really. I guess the ideas I can talk about while I'm describing it. So
I think one thing that when I start making a subclass before Justin finished it, look at earlier editions of D&D, because there's content that already exists that you can build off of. Like 4th edition, that has a lot of content to it, and there's a lot more to this edition than people give it credit for.
Yeah, the character concept or the subclass I came up with is pretty much a third edition prestige class in theme, at least, that has not been remade. So
Right. And one of the subclasses that we're going to talk about today, that's kind of what we started with too. Like, this was a subclass in 3.5. I'm like, this doesn't do this in Infinite Edition.
Yeah.
Mine's actually based on a hybrid class from Pathfinder, so
Nice.
it's like it's
There you go.
everything is just derivative. So
Yeah. One thing that I did was I was trying to think, like, what is a character from... At first I was thinking, what is a character from, like, popular fiction that I would love to play as, but I don't know how I would make them in 5th edition D&D. And I ended up settling with something else, but that was like, well, I thought of like, oh, what if I made like a dragoon, like from Final Fantasy? But then I looked on DM's Guild and there's already like 100 of those or something. So I was like, well, somebody else has probably done it better. Let me keep looking at, ideas. So,
oh yeah, no, someone's definitely done better than what I've done. I barely have it. I barely have it on paper. I just like the class a lot, and I was like, I kind of just use this as an excuse to like think about try and answer the question. Really,
sure. All right, you guys want to go ahead and just kind of jump into our subclasses?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, who wants to go first?
How about I go last so I can judge you all?
I guess that works for me. I'll go first, I guess. Okay, so the subclass that I came up with is a bard subclass.
ooh,
I hate it already. No.
I wasn't expecting that.
For a while, I was thinking about warlock because I really like warlocks, but no, I went with bard, and the subclass is the College of the Primal Song.
Ooh, great
So
name.
the idea here is that the universe, or the multiverse itself is kind of a gigantic orchestra with each plane, each planet, each person, each creature everywhere, everything is a different instrument in this gigantic song that makes up the multiverse. And so the idea behind this character concept, or this subclass, is that this is a character that somehow caught a glimpse, a tiny little, like caught just a couple notes of this primal song that makes up the entire multiverse. And once you hear it, it's like a song you can't really get out of your head. It's something you're always seeking. In 3rd edition, there was a prestige class called the Seeker of the Song. And I haven't looked at it in a long time, so I don't even know if I'm anywhere close to that. But the idea behind that class was similar, and that's kind of what where I went with this. So this is a person that has, if there is a prerequisite for joining this, it's that story-wise, your character has at some point heard a bit of this music. Maybe it came to you in a vision. Maybe you had a near-death experience, and during that moment when you were between dimensions, you heard some of that music. Maybe you encountered another bard of the College of the Primal Song, and you heard their music, and it opened your mind to this music that has always been there that you never even realized. So there's a few things to this. And I will say there was actually a novel I was writing a few years ago where one of the characters was of this archetype. And so it was pretty easy to think, well, what stuff was I going to do with that character in the book? And then I was using that as a guide for what I could do with this as a subclass. So for bards, at least, just a little bit of the process, bards get 2 or 3 abilities at level 3, and then 1 ability at level 6, and then 1 ability at level 14. And each class kind of has like a slightly different structure for when they get their abilities. But with bards, that's how it goes. So at level 3, I have 2 abilities that are mostly flavor, and then the 3rd ability is actually more powerful, I think. So of course, if you guys notice anything that is way too powerful or way too weak, let me know. So the first ability at level 3 is called the Bard's Instrument. Starting at 3rd level, a bard of the College of the Primal Song may spend 1 minute familiarizing themselves with an instrument with which they are not proficient. After doing so, they are considered proficient with that instrument for the next hour, after which they're no longer considered proficient until they use this ability again.
That's cool.
So you can literally just pick up any instrument and use it after, a minute of plucking the strings or whatever.
Can I ask a question in regards to that? Because I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Does it have to be an instrument? Could it be any item that they turn into an instrument? So
Well, so there's an additional little bit to this ability.
Oh, okay. I got ahead of you.
Additionally, when taking a short rest, a bard of the College of the Primal Song may fashion an improvised instrument with whatever materials they have on hand. An improvised instrument provides no proficiency bonus, but allows instrument checks to be made. Because I did have to look at that. Are there rules for improvised tools? And if there are, I didn't see them. It's just you can't make the check without the tools.
Right.
So with this, you can make an instrument. It's not going to be as good as if you had an actual instrument, but, you could break a stick off of something and then, rub it along a rock and make a noise or whatever.
It reminds me of those people that play like the trash cans and the mops
Yep,
and stuff.
yep.
That's immediately what I thought of. And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's the first ability. The second ability at level 3 is called Keep the Beat. Starting at 3rd level, the rhythmic beat of the multiverse gives you an infallible sense of the passage of time. As long as you are alive, you always know the exact date and time, and you have advantage on saves versus spells and effects that disrupt the flow of time, such as slow or temporal stasis. I don't know if there are any other spells that do that. Those are the only 2 I could think of.
Stop time. Haste too.
Well, but those aren't things that you would save against.
Oh, okay.
Nobody would be offensively casting
I got
or
you.
casting haste on you. So
got you.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any other spells that do like affect you time wise. You would have an advantage on saves.
That's
against
pretty
them.
cool.
It's not a long list, that's for sure.
Sure. So those 2 abilities are mostly flavor. They're probably not going to be. I wouldn't consider either of them powerful because when are they even going to come up?
Right.
But then the third ability is called Frisian. And Frisian is the chills you get when you hear like an awesome song.
Mm-hmm.
That's called Frisian.
Did not know that.
So whenever you grant a creature bardic inspiration, you are granting them a glimpse into the primal song of the multiverse, resulting in an energetic sense of euphoria, luck, and a connection to the world around them. Until the bardic inspiration is expended, the creature gains a 10-foot increase to their movement speed, blind sight to a range of 5 feet, and whenever they deal damage with a weapon, they may roll the damage die twice and take the higher result. This was a hard one to figure out if it's too powerful or too weak. You can spend your bardic inspiration just like anybody, any bardic inspiration, but if you don't spend it, you get a small boost to your speed. The blind sight of 5 feet, I was trying to think of how is it that someone could like feel the world around them, and I don't know, blind sight seemed like a good one, but I don't want to give them blind sight very far because I don't want it to be ridiculously powerful. And then the increasing your damage, it's not actually going to increase your damage potential. It's going to increase your average damage.
Yeah. I think that's a happy medium in there. And that's if they don't spend their bardic inspiration?
If they don't spend it. Once they spend it, those all go away.
Huh. That's a very intriguing mechanic. A selfish bard.
I've played a few video games where you have a buff that or a thing that you can expend, and then until you expend it, you have a small buff, so you have to decide between, do I want to keep the small buff and not use this bigger effect, or do I want to go ahead and use the bigger effect?
I like that.
Well, if you wanted to expand the range, instead of using like a true sight, you probably could use like something like a tremor sense or blind sight.
Yeah. What I did have was blind sight. I thought about tremor sense, but I went with blind sight.
Got it.
Instead. But maybe tremor sense, but a slightly longer
range,
bigger range.
Yeah, I would agree with that because it's all song is vibrations. So
yeah, that's true.
That really fits the theme, I think, quite well, actually.
Sure.
And I don't think it's so broken that you could probably get away extending that out easily 20 feet and it not being a problem.
Okay.
In my opinion,
sure.
Which is only mildly expert.
No, that's some great feedback. So the level 6 ability is called Sheet Music. Your knowledge of primal music can now be penned in a limited form into sheet music. You create a book of sheet music similar to a ritual book and can cast ritual spells from this sheet music. Choose 2 spells of 3rd level or lower that have the ritual tag from any class's spell list. These spells appear in the book and don't count against the number of spells you know. With the sheet music in hand, you can cast those chosen spells as rituals. You can't cast the spells except as rituals unless you've learned them by some other means. You can also cast any spell you know as a ritual if it has a ritual tag. So this is basically the Warlock Book of Shadows ability, I think. Mm-hmm. But because that's a 1st level ability and this is a 6th level ability, this lets you put 3rd level spells instead of 1st level spells when you first get it.
That is very interesting. I think so. With the exception of the melee built bards, the 6th level feature is generally some sort of utility feature. and it sounds like you nailed it. Like, that is a really cool. Are there any particular rituals you had in mind that are at that could be used at that higher level?
No, in fact, I had to look up whether there even were ritual spells at 3rd level or higher. I don't have any in mind, but I don't know. It just felt right.
No, it sounds really great. If there isn't any at that 3rd level, you could consider extending the duration or the effects of whatever ones they do use longer too, as alternatively. So yeah, that's very cool.
And then the final ability, the level 14 ability, is called the Killing Note. At 14th level, and this was actually the first ability I came up with for this, so the others were kind of afterthoughts. At 14th level, a bard of the College of the Primal Song is able to momentarily tap into the music that suffuses the multiverse, and by creating a discordant sound, they can disrupt the life rhythm of those around them. Once per long rest, they may use an instrument to strike a note that functions as the Divine Word spell, but does not expend its spell slot. So Divine Word, for anybody not familiar, it's a 7th level evocation spell. It's a bonus action, range of 30 feet, verbal components only. The spell is normally you utter a word of divine language. In this, it would be you play one note, and you choose any number of creatures you can see within 30 feet. Each creature that can hear you must make a charisma saving throw. If they fail the save, they take effects similar to like the power word spells. So like 50 hit points or fewer, they're deafened for a minute. 40 hit points or fewer, deafened and blinded for 10 minutes. 30 hit points or fewer, blinded, deafened, and stunned for an hour. 20 hit points or fewer, they are killed instantly. So the idea being that you play a single note of this music that is so powerful it controls the entire multiverse, and someone hears it, and if they are not strong enough, it instantly kills them. Or if they are strong enough, that doesn't kill them, but they can't see or hear or move for an hour, and so on.
Death Note.
If only that actually would have been a much better name, Jeff. Let me edit this part of the podcast as I put Death Note in my notes.
Right.
Very good.
Yeah. So those are the abilities at first I was thinking like, okay, I can't give them power word kill at 14th level. So I was like, what are my other options? And someone on Reddit pointed me towards Divine Word, which fit pretty well.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I definitely agree with maybe increasing the making it tremor sense, but a longer range. Yeah. Other than that, if you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear 'em.
Overall, I'm very impressed. I think the flavor is fantastic. I think you did a pretty on point job as far as just looking at it, or well, hearing it since I can't see it. But
Sure.
It sounds very fun. It sounds like, honestly, I want to play it just because you give me a power to just make an instrument out of anything. I think that's the coolest thing and would make for a fantastic, memorable mannerism. Like your character's constantly like, oh, there's a cup, and he starts tapping the cup at the tavern, making music, and then he's, hitting on the side of the chair with a spoon, and that sounds like so much fun. Like,
cool.
I totally want to play this now. You better publish this.
I'll see what I can do. One of the other ability, the Keep the Beat ability, there's a book that I read. It's called Azure Bonds. I think I talked about it a couple episodes ago. And there's a part in the book where it's a Forgotten Realms book. One of the characters encounters this bard that I think has been made immortal, but is like locked in a prison. So has been locked in a prison for who knows how long. And this character meets him, and then like they're gonna escape, and he says something, makes some comment about how long it's been, and they're like, "How do you know how long it's been? You've been in a featureless cell for however long." And he's like, he taps his head, and he's like, "A true bard never loses the beat." So that was kind of the idea.
Oh my gosh!
That's pretty good.
I just read through, finished one of the Brandon Sanderson's books, and something like that happened to one of the characters, and that's awesome.
Cool.
Who wants to go next?
I can. Mine's there's really not much to mine. I just mostly was just kind of like fiddling around with trying to recreate the Blood Rager, which definitely has been done. I've looked up a couple of people's ideas for it. So like when making a subclass, especially when I'm trying to basically combine two classes together, like it's like, where do I want to start from? Do I want to so I was trying to figure out, like, do I want to start from a point of because Blood Rager is a mix between barbarian and sorcerer.
Okay.
And it's a hybrid class in Pathfinder First Edition. It's the only character I've ever made in Pathfinder First Edition, just because like we were gonna run an adventure at one point. I think our friend Jay was gonna run us through something. Or no, we did a play by post thing.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it was like the first time I ever actually looked at all of the Pathfinder rules, and like, you know, it was like the CRD on online, and I was like, Blood Rager, that sounds awesome. Like I don't know what it is, but I want to be that. So and it ended up being like super cool, and it like, you know, and like I do, I always build a character to max level and try to like, you know, min max it as much as possible. Like, okay, how can I make this? How can I make a character that has the most, like the highest strength I could possibly give it? You know, it's like, so when it goes into its blood rage, it basically becomes a giant dragon demon, you know, raging that it can also like cast spells on itself while it goes into rage and such.
That's cool.
Not really super feasible in fifth edition. And like I was toying with, do I start from the barbarian side or do I start from the sorcerer side? And I ended up picking the sorcerer side. Cause like I think one of the things to look at when making a subclass is like, what are the resources of the class that you have, that you're building off of. So like with barbarian, you have rages. So like you can use that, like, you know, you can give them an ability that is like, okay, use one of your rages per day or whatever to, you know, in order to do this instead, and to do a different thing instead. And I liked sorcerer had, you know, basically more resources. One, they got spell you know, slots. And then they also have their power points. And then there's the meta magic, which is, I guess, going off of the power points. But I mean, like, you know, you can add different like meta magic effects or something like that. So, so the idea I was going for wanted to be like, you know, Blood Rager. I was kind of going off the idea of be something like you have like a demon or some sort of demon or fiendish something or other bloodline. I guess you could really flavor it any way you wanted. You could even probably just flavor it as a dragon, you know, bloodline if you wanted to. It just wouldn't be like the standard draconic bloodline. So you know, I was thinking like, okay, how to use those different resources, like the slots, like maybe instead of adding a new mechanic that is like, oh, you have so many blood rages per day. It's like, no, you're just gonna like whatever your highest slot spell slot available is, you use up one of those to go into your blood rage, because like, and you know, keeping it the highest level, because it's gonna, you know, the blood rage would improve as you level up, but it's gonna cost you your highest slot level. So you know, to have ideas like you know, giving them a natural AC bonus, which is pretty standard with the like the draconic bloodline. You actually just start off with a like a 14, I think, to your AC or something.
Something like that.
So like being able to, you know, use up a spell slot to instead of casting a spell, you go into a blood rage, which then allows you to, you know, do more like be more like a melee fighter. And then like as the class goes on, you might be able to toss on a few spells while you go into it, maybe at the expense of the power points. So yeah, I didn't go into nearly as much detail as Gabe, but I just kind of, I'm just like, I'm always like, you know, always coming up with like power fantasies for my power gaming and my character building and stuff like that. Right. So, it basically, like, you know, you started off being able to rage, and you might get certain abilities based on what your bloodline was. And then as you went up in levels, like you would be able to, like, you know, when you went into rage, you could cast like a 3rd level or lower spell on yourself as part of the rage action.
That's pretty cool.
So I liked that idea of you're spending a spell slot to go into this rage, and then you can then spend the power points to augment that form that you're going into. Maybe give yourself a more powerful natural weapon or more powerful natural armor. Maybe spend some extra points and give yourself like a breath weapon or something like that. Whatever it is that you want your bloodline to be, whatever you want to be changing into. Again, not much meat to it. It's just trying to figure out like what is a way to make a subclass like So the first thing I looked at was just like, what are the resources you can work with that you can use as. I'm thinking like different games have different classes. Like I don't know if any of you've played WoW recently.
Yes, last night.
Sure. Okay. So like in the past, most of the classes just had mana. Like if they casted any sort of spell, they have mana, and like mana still exists for most classes, like casting classes in that game. But like they've basically like added a different resource that those classes work with, like
focus.
The focus. And the paladin has like the holy power, so it's like they're spending mana, but they're spending mana to do abilities that give them this holy power that then allows them to use a more powerful ability. So just finding different ways to use those things, I think is a good way to like come up with ideas for making a subclass.
Sure.
When you said Blood Rager, the very first thing that came to mind for me was, a barbarian that actually gets more abilities the lower his health is.
Oh, that's
actually
cool.
what I thought about when he said Blood Rager, but I had never heard of that term before, and that sounded interesting. So so as I'm thinking about this, it sounds like you're trying to tap into a spellcasting barbarian, basically. So I would say if that good steps into following that is I would maybe consider using the paladin layout as a template for that, because they are like a third spellcaster or whatever. But I would use as you mentioned, I think using the rages to execute specific spell powers. So like for instance with the paladin, for instance, at second level you have 2 first level spell slots. So I would say you would be able to have access to I would pick a particular set of powers and say, hey, you can spend a rage to use this spell effect, right? Just to make up something off the top of my head. Let's say absorb elements, for instance, is a very offensive and defensive power. So I could totally see the guy charging in, and when he activates his rage or spends his point, he can then gain the benefits of that on a different turn. So you're saying instead of casting it as a bonus action, when somebody shoots a firebolt at him, he can use his bonus action to spend that rage point, become enraged, and gain the benefits of the absorb element spell, which grants him advantage or half damage on that attack, and lets his next attack unleash some of that power. So you're kind of fitting with that magical theme, but you're following a more fleshed out design, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's just an example of a way that I would that you could redefine the use of rage in a couple ways. First, it can be used on a different turn, specifically when you haven't taken an action, or maybe you didn't decide to use it yet, or for whatever reason. And then you can use it to increase your damage by taking damage that's already been put on the battlefield, I guess you could say. It becomes a defensive tool, and it gives you just another direction option to use it. You don't have to use it for that, but if you had several ways to expend that, you could even argue that at 6th level, the paladin gets access to 2nd levels of spells, right? So maybe you can expend 2 uses of your blood rage mechanic, your rages, to cast a benefit at 2nd level. So that when you started saying blood rage, and you're talking about like the mix of the sorcerer and the barbarian, that's kind of where my mind went. And I feel like because the paladin is already a hybrid of spellcasting and melee, it gives you kind of this is how many spells would be this is how many spells that if I'm going to give it to my barbarian would kind of be appropriate to that. And it helps get rid of the complexity that comes with the sorcerer, on top of and instead focusing more on the core rage mechanic and reinforcing that mechanic as a whole.
Sure,
at least in my mind.
Using a different class as like a template, just to kind of like guide you through keeping everything balanced too.
Yeah,
because if the idea is combining a spellcasting class with a melee class, like there are classes like that already. So
or you could also consider what they did in Xanathar's guide with like the Path of the Storm Herald. They basically didn't give him magic power, or they gave him magic powers but not spells. So at third level, you can send out this watery or fiery aura. That's clearly a magical effect. It does damage, but it's not a spell, right? So you could totally even write your own options in like that, and that you could utilize. So. And because you could also leverage, they could be more potent than say the Storm Herald, because the Storm Herald doesn't expend any resource to do that, so it has to be weaker because of that. And that more situational options gives the player a sense of more options on the table for them, I guess. Like when I play a Storm Herald, I'm like, oh, okay, well my desert aura is activated. That's cool. But I don't actively do anything with it. And that's kind of why I really like what you did with the Blood Rager and kind of giving it some of that more magicalness, I guess. So sorry, I had a lot on that because as I was reading, I was just like, there's so much potential here of awesome.
Like just the concept of a Blood Rager to me is just like the name alone was like, I need to make a character that's this, and then I read it, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I like Barbarian, I like Sorcerer, like. What's not to like about combining those two?
Right. I did like the idea of them getting more damage or stronger as their health gets lower, because that encourages a player to flirt with low health. So
I think I think a 3.5 had a character that had a feat or something that like every 50 damage it got another like +2 to its strength or something like that. So like
that's awesome.
I just beefed it up.
It was a high level game.
Yeah, it was a really high level game. It was like our epic level. But I think I had like somewhere around 400 hit points, and so I would just be like, well, okay, I could take a few hundred points of damage, but I'm gonna get stronger. It's gonna be great.
And of course, 3.5 they have the 20 cap that 5th edition has.
Right. No, it's like it was just you could. Like there were epic level magic items that were just a book that just they would just up your stat, and you could take it. I think there was a cap to it. I think you could take it as many as like a +10 or something, but it got up.
I think it was +5, but Jeff, if you are looking to tweak this a little more, I actually I thought you were going to be going with Barbarian as the base class, but since you're starting with Sorcerer, I would recommend look at the Wizard, the Blade Singer Wizard. Has something that is like sort of similar to Rage.
Yeah.
And also in that it's an arcane spellcaster that dabbles in melee too.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I always forget about the singer.
Yeah.
It
didn't get
or something you can look at too is back during the playtest for 5th edition, Sorcerer works completely differently too, and it basically use sorcery points to augment itself in other ways that it does now, so it might be worth a look.
I saved that so that I can use it later, because I thought it was so awesome. I don't think I would use it as a sorcerer, but I might be trying to plan on building a psionic, and I thought it was a potential template I could use. So
there you go.
We'll see.
Ian, did you want to go next?
One subclass that we came up with was what we end up calling the Circle of the River for the Druid. And the big inspiration for this was the Warshaper from 3.5. And for those of you who don't know, a Warshaper is, I'm good at wild shaping, but I don't want it to just turn into a creature. I just want to get really good at just changing specific body parts.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the art for it was like they have like a giant claw hand like they're in their normal form, but they're like their hand is just this giant like animal claw or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And part 2 is like because of that, you can like mix and match various features that various creatures might have. Like, oh, I think borrow this turtle shell and maybe borrow like the spines from a porcupine.
Yeah.
Fire breath and a crown and
come and get some.
Steal a princess or two.
And by the way, that's like the base thought behind it. And been a while since I looked at it, to be honest. But But the idea, though, is when you choose this archetype, you can basically augment yourself in various other ways. And we also gave it extra attack to at level 6, because the idea is part of it is, depending on what feature you choose, you can give yourself natural attacks, and you might as well be able to capitalize it on your regular human form, if you will.
Right.
Well, humanoid, I should say.
And I like the idea that it's not necessarily that you're just, getting good at attacking twice. It's that you've given yourself an additional, a tail that swipes at him or whatever.
Yeah.
There's some really good ones in there with that I liked, because they weren't it wasn't just the shifts weren't just combat options. There were all sorts of different shifts that's what we called the different features different forms you could shift your body part into. And I think it fit really well because there was so many that were just beyond I can attack more. Whether it is you get elongated limbs like that of a monkey, and now your reach is 15 feet, like, a bug, or 10 feet, like a bugbear or something like that. Or you grow wings, and you can now fly, which is actually, it's more like a glide until you hit a higher level, then it becomes actual fly. You got to work on building those wings and shaping them.
Sure.
Like a slimy skin like that, like a frog or an eel, to make yourself more difficult to grapple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, make yourself all goopy.
Yep. Or some gills so you can breathe in the water as you swim.
Yeah, I always like shape changing stuff. Warshaper was really cool.
It was.
I think that there was another character I dabbled tried to make in 3rd edition that at least took some levels of Warshaper, because that was a prestige class, wasn't it? I think it was like a 10 level or 5 level prestige class.
I think it was a prestige class.
Yeah. I tried my darndest to make a character that basically eventually became an Illithid or something,
Right.
like, because there were a couple prestige classes. What was one of them? Oh crap!
Talking about like the Illithid Savant,
Well,
or
right. No, the Illithid Savant was a prestige class for Illithids.
right? Okay, sorry.
And then there was the class Savant. So I wanted to make an Illithid Savant.
Yep.
But no, I think there is a I think it was in Complete Psionics. It was basically a prestige class or something that eventually turned you into what was almost a mind flayer. You like took feats to get tentacles or something.
Sure.
So I was trying my darndest to like combine that with the Warshaper, so I could have like I can like grow my tentacles to be large or huge size, so I can grapple things easier and eat their brains.
That sounds awesome.
So
Yeah, that's pretty good.
the other character I made in 5th edition was a Druid of the Moon, so I was using just normal wild shape, but like I really wanted to be able to swallow enemies whole, so like I was going for that like giant toad form. Like right off the bat, I was like, all right, I'm just working towards that, and then I'm just trying to do everything I can to be good at grappling things, and so I can swallow them whole.
Sure.
So yeah, any subclass that can help me towards that, that's great. Yeah, Warshaper was awesome.
I guess here's the question: if you're an Illithid and you can kill someone by eating their brain, does it count if you eat their whole body too?
It just takes longer to digest.
Brain's in there.
You got to dissolve them down to the brain.
I'm gonna find it in there somewhere.
The gooey caramel center.
Is the enlarge reduce spell on the druid's spellcasting list? Anybody know that?
I'll check.
Sure.
Because I'm gonna be honest, I totally want to play a wild shaper that can eat people now. So thanks for that.
Like just being able to swallow guys, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Don't take that out
I
of
don't-
context.
I don't think it is. I'm not seeing it.
Nope, it does not.
All right, Ian. I'm gonna play a moon druid. You're gonna play a wizard. All right. And you are, when I turn into a frog, are to cast enlarge on me. I command it.
Or a T-Rex. Either way.
What? No. I want to be a frog, because how embarrassing is that? Being killed by Frogger?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's many things that have the swallow whole ability in 5th edition,
No.
and like very few of them are beasts.
Great. Now I'm thinking about what happens if you're wild shaped and you swallowed something, but then something happens to force you out of your wild shape.
I'm pretty sure you would regurgitate them out.
Yeah.
Be coated and nasty.
I would argue if they ended up dying to your like stomach acid damage or whatever, because that's like an effect that goes on. Like if they die to that and then you go back to normal form, like they're just gone.
Sure.
That's funny.
Maybe you regurgitate their equipment.
We kind of just had in the episode that hasn't gone out yet. We kind of talked about the reverse of this. Oh, no. We talked about if you wild shape and then part of your body is removed, what happens to that part of your body? This is if you take something into your body, what happens when you turn back?
Huh. That's interesting.
Not as easy of a question as you might think.
Right? It sounds complex.
Yeah.
So the class that I brought is our gun mage. This was one of my first dabbles in the into the building of my own character. It has undergone 5 different revisions as I got better at it. Because that's one thing. The more I made, the more I understood the mechanics, the expectations, and flavor enhancing and balance. So I want to talk about this a little bit. If this is something sounds like you like, you can, or that sounds like you might like it, you can actually pick it up. It's a free or pay what you want on DM's Guild, or there's a link on our website at critacademy.com. Check it out. If it sounds interesting to you. If not going to hurt my feelings. Anyway, so the gun mage. Now obviously I know where everyone's thinking, oh, he's going to give a gun a revolver. No. Everyone knows that many sorcerers naturally find themselves able to tap into the well of magical power that resides inside of themselves. But what would happen if that power was there, but you couldn't access it? You couldn't pull it through to actually shape it in any usable form. It's there, you can feel it deep down, but you can't get to it. Well, that's what our gun mage is. They are sorcerers who have this innate power within themselves, but are unable to tap into it. Instead, they need more than just an arcane focus. They need a specially modified arcane focus that lets them really dig in and reach that latent power that's hidden inside. We call this a genetic unconventional neo-focus. It's designed by some very special wizards and artificers. It's gun for short because that's what I wanted it to be. Right. Honestly,
spent so long talking about an acronym.
There must have been like 100 different acronyms we came up with, and I finally narrowed it down to like 4, and I'm like, I'm rolling a die. Because I was so done with it by that point. I'm like, they're all awesome. So this archetype goes a little bit farther than most, as we designed a cantrip that goes specifically with it, but I'm going to be honest, you don't need this cantrip in your game to utilize this if you don't want to. But it's something that there is a higher level version. I think it's a chromatic orb spell. It's kind of a cantrip version of that. So the mechanics kind of already existed. I just shrunk it and weakened it a little bit. So here's what we got. So when you pick this bad boy at first level, you get your cool gun. The best part about any arcane focus is you get to decide what it looks like. I think Brandon in our playtest made his like out of a crystalline crystal, some such. I had another playtester make a bazooka. You do whatever you want, all right?
Sure.
What makes this interesting is when you pick it up, you get access to features called bursts. One of these is the cantrip Chromatic Burst, which basically allows you to roll an attack roll, and it gives you a small table of 4, and you roll on that table with poison, cold, fire, or lightning, and your damage is determined randomly. This is because you still don't have fine control over this power within yourself. So we represented that by randomizing the damage die. Now, because we picked poison and fire, which are 2 of the most highly resisted damage types in the game, statistically anyway, by a lot, we opted to make it do 2d4 damage instead of just 1d8 because we wanted at least the average to be a little higher to offset that weakness.
Sure.
It has the 1 action, 120 feet, pretty simple, straightforward cantrip besides the random, element, right? Which once again is kind of like the chromatic. It's called chromatic burst, right? So we wanted to make sure there was utility tied into this, so we also gave these bursts which are basically alternate uses of your spell points. So you've got the sorcerer use their spell points to alter their spells, either twinning them or casting them longer, casting them without using vocal spells, whatever the special meta magic is. So we use those in our bursts. So the first burst you get when you get at level 2 is Swift Burst. You basically release a gout of energy from your gun and allows you to take the disengage or dash action as a bonus action, and it doubles your jump speed. So you're basically pointing your gun in a direction and using it as a thruster. That's awesome. Very utility. It was very much fun using this. It was a lot of cool stuff. I think at one point when Brandon picked up Fly, he carried 2 of them and used one to fly around, right? And the other one to shoot people. So it was a lot of fun. Then you're going to get Focused Burst. Your gun begins to release energy stored up in small amounts that leak out. And basically, when you cast a spell while wielding your gun, you can expend 1 sorcery point and choose to gain a +2 bonus to your spell's attack rolls until the end of turn. So you're expending an additional point, one of your precious sorcery points, to increase your chance of success. That is an enhancement. That is a consumption. That's what we want, and it's temporary. So the beauty of this build is to not use spells in general, but instead use those precious slots to gain more sorcery points. And that's what I wanted the focus to be, not pushing out regular spells, but doing whatever you can to convert those precious resource slots into these bursts to focus on using the gun more than the spells that you already have access to as a sorcerer. But the options are still there, so that there is a bit of the versatility is still there should you want it.
Sure.
Anyway, so those are the core bursts of the game, right? I actually was like, man, there's lots of bursts you can choose from, but I forgot that I totally had revamped it, and now there's only the 2.
Okay.
Because there was like 8, kind of like the Battle Master thing. There was a bunch, and you would pick and choose. But I decided to end up narrowing it down so that it was more consistent and on par with using your gun for the core feat. Anyways,
and that's probably for the best.
Yeah, and I had forgot about that until I went. I was like, "Where's the rest of it?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I got rid of those in the last update." But anyway, so that's the core of the character outside the meta magic, which you can still apply in these situations. In fact, most common used is twin meta magic with the chromatic burst means you would end up with beams of 2 different elements, which was kind of cool. And not so good when they were immune to the other one. So there is a bit of a gamble there if you like that chaotic kind of feel. At level 6, you get what's called chromatic burst. You learn you can now release a new burst that you spend 3 sorcery points, and as an action, you can release a massive burst of raw energy in a straight line, 100 feet long and 5 feet wide, that blasts out from your direction to a direction you choose. You choose acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder for the blast you create. And then, of course, each creature must make a dexterity saving throw for 8d8 damage of the chosen type, blah, 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 all that stuff. Where it gets interesting is when you choose this action, you may dump additional sorcery points into it to increase the damage. So instead of spending spell slots, you're spending your sorcery points to amplify these attacks. And you're basically doing a variety of Kamehameha waves, or I think Lightning Bolt was actually the template I used for this as far as damage and stuff. Except you can change the element. And now, unlike your cantrip, you can actually, change the element and control it a little bit. So it gives you a little bit more control. And then the final feature you get, which is very much my favorite, because I think one of the worst things that happens to ranged classes is they don't always have escape features. So Repelling Burst was a must-have. At 14th level, when you are hit with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to release a quick burst of power, dealing thunder damage equal to your sorcerer level, so at this point, 14. The attacker must make a strength saving throw against your sorcerer spell save DC. On a failed save, they are pushed straight back in a 20-foot line. So when somebody comes up to whack you, you blast them and send them flying in another direction. Now the damage isn't all that high, but that's not the goal of the feature. The goal is to give you a reactionary benefit to put some distance between you and whoever the hell is trying to kill you.
Sure.
And that's really the core of it. Obviously you have all the other sorcerer benefits, the meta magics, the spell access, but this build and this archetype goal is to push you to wanting to convert your precious slots into points and start gaining benefits, like always having a +2 bonus to spell attacks. That's huge. That is really huge in 5e. And of course it'll stack with whatever bonuses, magic items and stuff you have. So this is one of my favorites, not because it's my first, but I think it's the one that I learned the most from, and because of that I have a lot of fun with. I've made many monster variants based off of this. So what do you guys think of this bad boy?
I think it sounds really cool. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Can confirm it is.
I love the idea of like blasting yourself around.
Yeah.
As actually like going back to playing Monster Hunter, one of the weapons in that game is the gun lance, and it's a shield and a lance, and the lance is also a gun that blasts, and like one of the abilities you get is you can propel yourself through the air by shooting the lance out like a jet engine.
Yep.
So that's what I'm imagining, is just somebody like scooting around with a jet of fire behind them.
And I like it because it encourages the use of your arcane focus in your descriptions. Because it's one thing to say I cast Fireball. To hold up a big, massive cannon handgun and see the energy being drawn from your body into it and lighting it up, that is just so much cooler than I point my finger and a red streaks goes around and blows up. So actually one of my favorite art pieces that we've ever had created is an art piece in here where the gun actually has tentacles going into the sorcerer's arms, and you can see, looks like it's sucking the power right from her, which was what we wanted. So
yeah, it's a small thing, but I always love a class feature that openly says, like, feel free to describe this however you want. So something that the player can be as unique as they want when designing what their gun looks like. That's really cool.
It's funny you mentioned that, the bazooka lady, man. She basically put her bazooka on the ground and sat on it like a rocket for fly, and I was cracking up the whole time. I'm like, you're riding it like a rocket. She's like, yeah, what of it? I'm like, all right. My patrons crack me up sometimes. So overall, it was a lot of fun, and it really... You learn a lot when you first publish a product and then continue to revise it to make it better. So,
sure.
Everyone's going to have to do that. Nobody gets it right on the first try. That's not true. I'm sure somebody does, but it ain't me. So, do you guys have any questions about the process that, or anything like that?
You said that you revised it a bunch of times. Like, was there anything in particular that you didn't expect you would have to revise?
Yeah, full chromatic burst.
Okay.
So yeah, I got a lot of complaints that it was overpowered. Now, mind you, when it started, 100% based on lightning bolt.
Sure.
What I didn't count on is one person expending all of their points, all their spell slots into points, and then just dumping it all into one big attack that just killed the boss. I was like, well, that sucks. How can I fix that? So I ended up making it, you can only use it a number of times equal to your charisma modifier. So they're only going to ever be able to buff it up in one attack to 5. But that was something I honestly, I thought I nailed. I was like, that's not going to need any revisions. That's perfectly good. It's fine. I balanced it off of another spell that you should have well access to, but because of that little minor detail, I spent like an hour trying to figure out how am I going to block this. Like,
sure.
Should I do it just like once per short rest and then, they can buff it? Well, no, they can still, buff it as much as they want. That's still a problem. So, the other thing was, one of the powers, the chromatic burst got a lot of hate because it had 2d4 and people said, oh, that makes its average damage higher, blah, 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 blah. And so I had to fight a little bit with that to figure out, run the numbers game, basically. That was more of a number crunching. And I finally decided, because that went through like 5 or 6 different iterations before I settled on what it is now. It was like it was a save spell at first, I think, because I was like, you ain't gonna miss. But
Right, sure.
I think you do need to take other people's feedback to a point.
yeah,
Because, for example, like going off of the traumatic burst that you're talking about, you were talking about how it was broken. Some people said it was broken when it was 2d4 and it was a random element. Like, I remember when one idea I pitched was make it a d6, but you can choose the element. And once again, people said that was broken. I'm like, well, when you do the math, it isn't. Because let's say, for example, even when you choose something that is vulnerable to an energy type, it still is in line with what, like a d8 plus your whatever your spellcasting modifier is.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And that's I think what comes with people will argue about anything. When it comes, like they'll argue with me about whether something's balanced, and I'm like, dude, you're yelling at how imbalanced this is. The symbiote is just me rewriting all the powers of the barbarian and the fighter, and I could not believe how many people just attacked me saying, "Oh, that's clearly not tested. You don't know what you're doing." I'm like, dude, it's the stuff. It's from the book. Like I didn't do anything. Like
this is 100% legal in the book right there.
But that just shows that
wild.
people who think they know what they're doing don't. And that's a problem.
I would say that also shows you, the symbiote specifically shows you how big of an impact flavoring and presentation can make. Something that might mechanically be awesome might not be picked by players because it doesn't seem awesome because of how it's presented.
Yes.
Similarly, something that is weak, a ton of people might flock to it if you present it well.
Yeah, and that really came across when I was on, I guess played on the One Shot Onslaught podcast, and I ran my symbiote, and people were like, "Man, he's so powerful," blah blah blah, and I'm like, they're like, "Dude, that's just a barbarian fighter." I just didn't describe any of the stuff associated with it. And because of that, people came up with this illusion that it was imbalanced, that everything wasn't broken. But man, some people loved it. And it's a lot of fun, too. I think I ran it in some of your games, too. But you're right.
Yeah.
You make a perfect point.
it just shows people will complain about anything.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
the point on the flavor making all the difference is something that cannot be stated enough, I think. You can completely change how a class is perceived by the way you describe this character.
Yeah.
When I first played this gun mage, quote unquote, I played a wizard. And I just said, this is my arcane focus. Now I'm going to go shoot people.
Yeah.
That's it. And it turned into so much flavor. Well, how does it look? Well, it's got 6 canisters on it. And I have a bandolier with all these different colored dust inside. And the blue one, I flip that out, boom, minor illusion. Flip out a red one, boom, fireball, And it was, I came up with all this and I was like, I got to make this into a class now. Sorry, I rambled on about that a lot.
Oh, no problem. Also, I think it's important to say that playtesting is very important as well. Because, if you didn't realize that players might just pump up all their points into this ability, you're never going to know that without playtesting.
Yes.
I think a great example of playtesting is you do need to also, and Justin got to touch on this a little bit too, like not jump the gun too much or overcorrect something when players do something.
Yes.
Like an example of that was like in our current playtest for Capes and Crooks, I took a power for a martial artist where you can basically, if an enemy attacks you and misses, you can use your reaction attack back. And this was when we initially had an unarmed strike when you took it and do a D10. And during our first playthrough, Justin's like, okay, we're nerfing the unarmed strike. I'm like, wait, why'd you do that? You were doing 2.5 times the amount of average damage. Like, okay, but I was using a bunch of different powers in conjunction together to create this effect in a non-standard way.
Yes. Nobody does that, though. He literally would run up to enemies, strike them, and run away, provoking an op attack just so he could use Counter-Strike. And I'm just like, how? I would have never thought of that. But that's the point of playtesting. And you can't playtest every possible combination, which is why you do need to undergo revision sometimes. But it does help.
Definitely. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular question. We got a lot of discussion out of that. So good job, everybody. But we do still have our social media questions. I'll try to make these quick because I don't want this to be too long of an episode. Our last social media question was, what is a character from existing media, a video game, book, movie, etc., that you've always wanted to recreate in a tabletop RPG? Jeff, did you have an answer?
I think I always go with Edward Elric.
from Full Metal Alchemist.
From Full Metal Alchemist, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's the picture I put for the social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yep, I saw that. Yeah, and like that's why I'm always like been drawn to like Artificer and stuff too, because that's just kind of like the sciencey side of magic always intrigues me.
Sure. Ian, how about you?
The thing that comes to mind every time is All Might from My Hero Academia. But
Okay.
in order for me to do it the way I want to, though, you pretty much have to do some house rules. Just because, like, okay, I want to play a paladin, so I can use Smite, make him all Smite, basically.
All Smite.
But Raw. Okay, but Raw, you can't Smite with unarmed strikes, so...
Yeah.
Which never made any sense to me.
Yeah, I've come across that too, where like
5th edition is a little goofy in that way.
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I suppose if you took a variant human, took like the fighting style feat, grabbed unarmed combat, you're halfway there. But and if you're like with understanding DMs, like that makes no sense. Go ahead and smite with unarmed strikes.
Right, sure. Justin, how about you?
Kaladin Stormblast from Brandon Sanders' Stormlight Archives. One thing that I absolutely love, and actually, our Skybreaker is actually 100% inspired by this character.
Yep.
So I
There you
actually did create it. In it, he has unique powers. And kind of think of it kind of like a rage. He takes in energy into himself, this stormlight, and it radiates out from him, and he can expel it as usefulness. Like he can make somebody stick to a wall, ceiling, floor, or he can make gravity go the wrong direction by touching somebody, so they fall up instead of down. And
Sure.
all that stuff is just awesome, and the character himself is great. He has a little like a pixie fairy person that his bond is what gives him his power, and I want to see all of that brought into real life. I did the best I could with the Skybreaker though, so which you can pick up over at critacademy.com, or you can sign up with Crit 3 here on this show, and it's included in the bundle. You're welcome.
There you go.
Shameless plug.
And then I think last time I said one of the characters from the TV show Lex, but I actually when I was trying to make a subclass, I was thinking to myself like I've always wanted to play a dragoon from Final Fantasy. There isn't really a good way to do the jump mechanic though, other than it just being you just reflavor an attack as a jump, because one of the benefits of the jump was that it took you out of combat for like a round.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I don't know a good way to do that in D&D.
Blink.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think we both.
That's Kevin's entire thing.
Yeah. I mean, you would have to clearly reflavor it from it being shifting dimensions to I jumped really, really high and you can't see me.
Yeah.
That's the closest I think you could get.
Well, maybe that's a good starting point.
I feel like, though, in regards to this question, I have to give a shout out to the YouTube channel Tulok the Barbarian, because this is his entire thing.
Yep.
He takes pop culture characters and converts them to a D&D character. Up
That's
to level
true.
20.
You had him on your podcast, didn't
Yeah,
you?
he's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think of that. All right.
Wish I would have waited to get him on when he was as popular as he is now.
Sure. So we've got a bunch of responses. I probably won't read. I'll probably just try to read a small handful of them. Over on Facebook, Sean M says, Batman all night long, night spelled with a K. I'm currently playing a water genasi through Elemental Evil, and I've flavored this monk to be Avatar-ish without directly being Aang. He's actually a waterbender. I usually don't want to play a character on the nose. I make enough of those, such as Nacho Man Randy Savage, a luchador fighter. But I do love to draw on the essence of a character like Puent or Wolverine-inspired Battle Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
All that said, Batman, ... Jason E says, Thor, I always wanted to play around with the Marvel version where he's exiled to Earth without all of his powers and slowly rediscover them as he levels up and gains power.
Very cool.
Paladin.
I did a character that was kind of similar to that. I was playing a character that was a Titan that lost all of his power and was slowly gaining them
That's
back.
cool.
Over on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, I've always loved vampires and anti-heroes, so my answer would have to be Blade or Selene from Underworld. Just a super efficient and deadly assassin type character with inhuman reflexes, regeneration, and on occasion will nom on some humans.
I guess Wizards are coming out with the book for that here soon.
Yeah. Scottish Unicorn Clan says, I always include a disgruntled watch commander akin to Captain Sam Vimes from the Discworld series of books. Haven't had a chance to have any others in a campaign yet, but would definitely love to, specifically Death, Granny Weatherwax, Jack Jackram, and the list could go on indefinitely.
I've only read two Discworld books, and I've enjoyed both of them, though, and they were hilarious.
Yeah, they're great.
Arcanist Winterbrand on Reddit says, I'm going to cheat this week because I have 2 great ideas. The first is Wander from Shadow of the Colossus. I would have to say as a base class, he would be a cavalier fighter with archery as a fighting style. Give that guy a magical sword and he's good to go. The second is Talion from Shadow of Mordor. He is an incredible character that truly embodies the ranger and has a ghost patron ? That gives him some legit abilities. Misty Step, Ghost Bow as Eldritch Blast, maybe add a branding effect, and this is a must play for me. I want to see both of these characters within the context of a D&D game ASAP. Those are good.
Yeah.
Over on Twitter, the Cam E Weeb says Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. He's on that picture. I think they'd be a transmutation wizard, but might require some homebrewy stuff to make it as close as possible. Also, D&D Character Lab says, good answer in response to the picture. And that's Carl with a K says, I would love to play a character like Uhtred of Bebenberg from The Last Kingdom. He's cocky and annoys everyone of power, but can back up his cockiness with skill in whatever he does. And over on Discord, I'll just read a couple. Vamp Demigod says, not exactly media, but I created a bard named Jekyll Maxon, who was completely themed around Michael Jackson's song Smooth Criminal. For example, he carried several rugs and would wipe up blood with them. He would also only yell, "Are you okay, Annie?" for his vicious mockery.
That's fine.
There were several other parts of the character, but that's all I remember offhand. That and the fact that he had a hand crossbow to represent Michael Jackson's revolver in the Smooth Criminal music video. The Beverage Tea says either Chuck Norris, the Irish guy in Braveheart, an edgier Legolas, or a faceless man from Game of Thrones. Every time I try to make one of those above, they come out as a spastic gnome rogue that goofs around. I need help. And Collins B just put a picture of the Doom guy from Doom.
Nice.
So yeah, some good responses in there.
All right, just for the heck of it, I pulled up 2 Elected Barbarians build for Edward Elric, and good lord, he's 3 classes. Sorcerer, Warlock, and Fighter.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course, he'd have to be like yeah. I remember making a character that ended up having like 4 different classes. And I described this character, I think, to Jay, and he was like, Jeff, that's too many classes. I was like, no, that's not enough. Whenever you think you have enough classes in your multi-class character, you add Warlock, and then you're done.
Pretty much. I remember there was a point in early Order of the Stick where Ilan, the bard, meets his brother Nail, who is a fighter rogue sorcerer focusing on enchantment, I think.
Yeah.
And Ilan is like, doesn't that seem a little bit complicated? And Nail is like, well, it didn't until just now.
I love Order of the Stick.
Yeah, it's very good. I haven't read it in about 3 years, but
I'm caught up.
Someday I'll go back to it. That was our last social media question. Our next social media question is, in all of D&D 5th edition, what is your favorite subclass?
Ooh.
So we just talked about making subclasses today. So what is your favorite subclass that exists?
Conjuration Wizard.
Okay.
The ability to create whatever you need instantly is phenomenal and is completely underrated and outshined by the Blade Singer and the Divination Wizard. But literally having Batman's utility belt on your person is an absolutely invaluable feature to have, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And you can use it to bluff people because it glows magically. Be like, hey, I'll sell you this magical key. It'll open any lock.
Sure.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Make sure you're standing next to the door that it actually will open.
Well, yeah, of
Be like,
course.
let me just test it on this random door. Look at that.
Well, the beauty is
How
you
about
can
that?
create a new one every time. So as long as you get a good, I got to make sure I line it up, and you're taking a look at it. Oh, I got the key. Ain't nobody going to know, man. Be gone before they realize it. Not that my wizards are con men, but that sounds like an awesome idea now.
No, of course not.
No.
Ian and Jeff, either you guys got one?
I'm not even sure how to answer this question because I kind of feel like a lot of it depends on my mood and what I'm playing.
Sure.
But
How about your mood right now?
if I had to pick one, though, I would say Way of the Open Hand for monks.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like that archetype is what you would picture a monk to be. And I think also overall, the monk gets a lot more crap as a class than it deserves. And I've lost count how many times where I would take a I ran of all things, a Way of the Open Hand monk who was a halfling. Took it to Adventure League.
Yeah.
His entire fighting style around punching people in the dick. That's how I flavored Stunning Strike.
Yeah, that'll stun you, all right.
And I've lost count how many times where just using just the archetype as is, I made people, though, because they don't play monk, mind you, go, wait, you can do that? Yeah, you know that if you played this.
Yeah. Jeff, how about you?
Oh, kind of in a similar way where it's like because like monk kind of gets a lot of flack, like ranger kind of gets a lot of flack, but the gloom stalker ranger,
Yeah.
It's a good one.
is just super cool. Like it's one I keep going back to whenever I'm making a character that's going to be in any way stealth related, because I think it's at 3rd level you are invisible to dark vision.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like in like if you go into a dark dungeon where, you know, there's mostly going to be monsters with dark vision, you just don't bring a torch and you're invisible to everything in there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's ridiculous. You pair that with like a rogue sneak attack or something, and it's ridiculous. Now it's like it's easily thwarted by someone just lighting a torch or using a cantrip, but like not many like dungeon dwelling monsters are going to have that available.
Sure.
It's cool, and I think that's what I made my dwarf out of in our actual play.
Yes.
And then I think I played we played with you guys. We played with you, Justin, I think once, and I had a gloom ranger, I think that time.
Were you a Gloomstalker Ranger?
Yeah, I think so. Because we were fighting that lich, when the lich, of course, didn't prepare light. Like, why would a lich prepare light?
Lich, please.
Oh, I was thinking of a different thing. Yeah. No, I remember that one that we were. I was remembering when we did Claws of Madness.
That's what I was thinking of.
Gloomstalker?
No,
it's when we did. There was that short little like. I don't even remember what it was. We streamed it on Twitch though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was on. Yeah, it was streamed. No, yeah, the one that was the Claws of Madness. I was doing I was like a total Eldritch Knight.
Okay.
But it was Gloom. The Gloomstalker Ranger that I had accidentally made a Ninja Turtle. So first I was like, okay, I want to play this. I want to play a cool like dungeon delving like cave dwelling like turtle character. And so I wanted to give him the dark vision stuff from Gloomstalker, and then I was like, oh, I can make him like really good at being in the darkness and stuff, and like I want him to be good at climbing and things, and like I just was like, you know, I was like, okay, I would some ranger in there, some rogue, maybe a little bit of the monk with some of the way of the shadow in there, and like, oh, I've made a ninja and it's a turtle. Dang it!
You forgot to make him cool. Instead, you made him radical.
Right? Yeah. But yeah, that was all he was ranger, rogue, monk, warlock, and Jay was like, that's just too many.
Too many. That's pretty good. I don't have a great answer. I think kind of like Ian, it kind of depends on my mood and such. But thematically, I've always loved Hexblades. I think that Hexblade Warlock is just such a cool concept.
Love Hexblade.
And it made the Pact of the Blade a viable option.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Hex. I think. Yeah. Hex. That would definitely be at least in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
And actually, something that most people don't realize is that the Hexblade is. I did not realize this till somebody I know who's a min-master pointed this out. But when you take improved pack weapon, you can use range weapons, which could be like a longbow, heavy crossbow, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can use that longbow to smite.
Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the normal rules doesn't let you do that, huh?
No, definitely not with the paladin.
All right, I think that'll do it for our questions for today. But let's wind down a little bit. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. So, Ian, did you have a story for the funeral pyre today?
I do! And if I told this one last time, I apologize. But
that's fine. If so, go for it.
Okay. This was my first Dungeons & Dragons character I ever built. And I don't mean ever, was back in 4E, which I believe gets more flack than it deserves. But and yes, this is the character's name, Fruit Bat the Half-Orc Barbarian.
Fruit Bat.
He had a legitimate name, but Fruit Bat was a nickname that stuck because the part of his backstory was somebody said he's as dumb as a fruit bat, and it stuck. And I can't remember what his original real name was. But anyway,
Yeah, that's how it goes.
after playing this character for years, there was one point where he got selected by the god Bane, saying, "You know, I like you. You're kind of an idiot, but you're good at what you do, and you're good at killing stuff." And as the campaign went on, Bane, despite the fact that my character was good, chaotic good, mind you, but good, kept on blessing him. He eventually became a candidate to be Exarch of Bane.
Oh.
And I'm mentioning this because eventually we started journeying with a NPC who was a Dragonborn fighter who Fruit Bat hated with a passion because the Dragonborn was kind of a dick. And after journeying with this Dragonborn for years, guess what? Turned out he's also a candidate to be Exarch for Bane.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
That's where
okay.
this is going.
Yeah. So eventually, myself and Vehemines ended up fighting a one-on-one duel, which Vehemines challenged Fruit Bat to. And it was going to be, naturally, to the death.
Yeah.
And this was going to be a very frustrating fight, too, because I fought alongside Vehemines, I see what he does, I see what his abilities is, and Fruit Bat I built to charge. That was his entire thing. I took some feats to make his charge better, I took a crap ton of magic art to make his charge better, but Vehemines basically built in a way where, in 5e terms, he had pole arm mastery with Sentinel.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, well, my entire fighting style's not gonna work. So basically I went to this fight hamstrung already. But to be fair, Fruit Bat still held his own. And eventually both characters got knocked down to single digits in HP. And mind you, both characters were in triple digits with their HP.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And
Long battle.
yeah, and Fruit Bat eventually got KO'd with one hit. And the way Half-Orc Resilience worked in 4th edition was when you're knocked unconscious, instead of staying at 1 HP, you get to make one free melee attack.
Right. Oh, man, I forgot about that.
I'm like, yes, I can take this SOB with me. So I took my die, rolled, and a natural 1 popped up.
Oh, no.
No.
I was like, oh. And this was a fight to the death, so Fruit Bat fell down, and Vehemines coup de grace him. I'm like, why did it be that guy of all people? I hated that guy.
Oh, man.
Had to be him.
And because this was a deities were involved with his duel, if you will, when Fruit Bat died, his soul got shredded. No resurrections.
Oh,
That's rough.
Yeah. But I remember that to this day. And not the least because it was my first character death, but that was epic. What a way to go.
That's a good story. All right. Well, I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Fruit Bat, who taught us the important lesson: keep your friends close, but keep your reach weapon wielding enemies closer. Clank. All right. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys for coming on the show. If you want to once again tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can find your podcast, where they can find anything else you're working on, go for it.
Yes, we are the 2 of the 3 hosts of the Crit Academy Dungeons & Dragons podcast. You can find us on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. If you want to join us live, we're on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube every week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Sundays.
On Sundays. And
Yep.
it's a lot of fun. Come and join us. At the very least, if you're interested in superheroes, come and check out our playtest of our Capes and Crooks upcoming Kickstarter. It's going to be a blast. Blast. Because
Awesome.
they're super powered. Get it?
Yeah, we have an Austin too, but he had to work today.
Yeah. I'm sorry. If I had realized, I might have been able to maybe fit you guys in on a different day, but whatever the case.
Well, I mean, there's 3 of us, so good luck trying to get all 3 of us to get us to line up too. So
Good point. So that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We have our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Check us out on the podcatcher of your choice. We are on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you want to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games. And like I think we said last time, where there's a new Binding of Isaac update coming out. Maybe we'll play that sometime soon.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
Also, head over to bit.ly/InterPartyConflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So Justin, until next time,
Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes.
All right.